Welcome to Office Tools Training. My name is Shante, my last name is Sachet, and I'll be your instructor for today's Introduction to Office Tools. Everyone is on mute. This gives everyone an opportunity to hear as far as follow along with today's training. There is nothing that is too formal about today's session. Feel free to go ahead and take notes. Your questions are also important. If in fact you do have a question, feel free to submit that question via the chat, and we'll make sure to get a response back to you. So let's go ahead and get started. Once again, my name is Shante. My last name is Sachet. To start the training, I have a short PowerPoint to kind of warm us up, and we'll dive right into my demo Office Tools product. Here we go. So what we'll be going over today in the Office Tools introduction, we'll make sure you have a good understanding of what you are seeing. What is Office Tools comprised of? And the basic overview of Office Tools. At the conclusion of today's session, you will have a great understanding of how to navigate, understanding where to find the different options, and just overall have a better understanding of the navigation of Office Tools. So what now? After, as far as today's training session, to further your knowledge as far as within Office Tools, the same way you registered for today's session, feel free to register for another session within Office Tools at a different topic. Heads up if you are not aware, for July 10th and 11th, we'll be having our Abacus Maximus as far as trade show. Make sure if you haven't got your tickets, take advantage of that. There's some good information, some wonderful key speakers giving you information as far as on the product and features. So I'm pretty sure by now you have been hearing about this. However, if you have not, it's still an option. Make sure. We'd love to see you there. Okay, this concludes as far as that short PowerPoint. As I stated, let's go ahead and jump right into Office Tools. I like to begin the session as far as from my desktop view. For those who are on today's training who have never logged into Office Tools or this will be your first time, we'll have some housekeeping I would like to go over. So as you can see, the Office Tools icon is on my desktop. I'll double click to open. If in fact you've been provided as far as your username and password, add that in. Well, there are some configurations that a password is not necessary, just your username. And then OK would allow you to log in. Now let's go over those two bits of housekeeping. This is more so for your first time logging into Office Office Tools. When you first log in, if you notice here, this particular option is going to be provided to you if we expand. Good morning, and it'll provide to you as far as today's task. Feel free to close that. Also as well, down below, we're going to be covering this shortly. This is considered the staff activity log, and it's also undocked. You can close it, and it'll automatically put your staff activity list right down at the bottom. So to kind of show you what it will look like, it's undocked the first time you're logging in. If in fact you select on the X or close this particular window, it will take the staff activity list and place it right at the bottom of your screen. So please, as the staff activity list first time logging in comes undocked, close it, and it will place it at the bottom of your screen. This is the wonderful view moving forward. Another thing you'd want to do, coming down to the type down below, and we'll get to this shortly, make sure all of these items are selected, checked off, beginning with projects, ending with notes. This is what's going to allow the different items, topics to roll, allowing you to be able to view what's on your personal activity list. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get started. I'm currently logged into my particular demo account for Office Tools. When you log in, after closing, as far as your staff activity list, it will look just the same. Of course, your clients will be loaded. So where do we begin? Well, Office Tools is broken up into three main parts. Understanding what these three main parts are and where to find them, how to manage them, it's everything. So, part one, let's begin there. On the left side of the screen, where I'm circling with my cursor, this is considered or called the contact list. This is where you're going to find all of your prospects, clients, contacts, and vendors. To begin, you need to select as far as your client. Who are you working for right now? To locate a client, there's several different ways to do it. You can quickly point select. If you see your clients such as Blue Sky Studios, there they are, point select. Another option is use your scroll bar, moving up and down, find your client, point select. Best practice, we would recommend that you take advantage of this search field at the top where you can type in as far as the name of your or your client, ABC, and it will filter to ABC Company, as you can see. Heads up, within this search, you are able to search on your client by name, phone number, email, as well as account information such as the account number. For advanced searches, well, to the left, you'll find this magnifying glass. There's a drop down. You can add in different filters to refine your search as well. So, where will you begin? Part one, you're always going to begin with the client. Who are you looking to work for at this particular time? After you've selected as far as your client, part two, where I'm now circling with my cursor, this is considered the main workspace. After selecting your client here, the tabs going across the top, these tabs, the information that resides within this tabs, well, this has to do with the client that has been selected. For example, ABC Company has been selected. I am by default on the Contacts tab. Well, I'm able to view the main contact or client information for ABC Company. Each tab will also have its unique toolbar going across the top to take action within that tab. If I needed to see the notes as far as for ABC Company, I can come to the Notes tab. If I wanted billing information for ABC Company, of course, I can come to the Billing tab. Once again, after you've selected as far as your client that you're looking to work for, you may then select the appropriate tab based on the work that you're looking to accomplish. Part one and part two go together. After selecting your client, you're now doing the work in the main workspace. Part three to Office Tools down below would be your staff activity list. In the staff activity list, here is where we're going to capture as far as the work that you've done for all of your clients, such as your callbacks, your projects, and so forth. This would allow you to have a good understanding as far as what is on your plate and what you need to complete, possibly callbacks and so forth. So the client that you select, the work that you do within the main workspace, down below, your staff activity list is going to show your work as well as call your attention to your reminders, such as, let's say, Bob Smith from ABC Company needed a callback today, which was set 3 days ago. If that callback was created, you would be able to view that within your staff activity list. So now let me give you a better understanding of the tabs going across the top, and we'll actually do some work and populate this staff activity list down at the bottom. The tabs going across the top, understanding now that we've selected as far as our client, we're now viewing our main workspace. For ABC Company, beginning with the tabs, let's begin with contacts. In these tabs, I would like to give you a better understanding when you select a tab, what you can find and the functionality. Now, for today's introduction to Office Tools, we will only be covering the first 5 tabs, beginning with contacts ending in schedule. Projects ending in documents, well, these 4 tabs are their own personal training, and they're about an hour long. Feel free to register and attend. So beginning with the contacts, ABC Company is selected. Just to recap, real quick, I can quickly see the name of the contact as well as email information, main contact information. After the client has been selected, if in fact there are more contacts other than the main contact, within the toolbar in a red font, you'll see more contacts. If I select on more contacts here, I'm now able to view the other contacts other than the main contact by scrolling to the right or viewing the previous. So contacts will provide you your contact information here. We can add to our contact list manually. We can edit this particular contact and resave. Notes. As far as within the Notes tab, we're capturing as far as all the permanent notes for this particular client. You're going to find all of the permanent notes here for all staff members. Imagine what you did for that particular client today will be captured in the notes. If you have other staff members as far as within your office, if they have done anything for this particular client, it will also be in the notes. Everyone should always be on the same page when dealing with the client, right? This gives you the perfect opportunity, place, location to capture these notes. As an example, I can select on add a note, and if you notice the toolbar, it pertains or it's specifically for the tab that has been selected. A lot of times, offices may ask, well, what would you like to capture as far as in the notes? Anything that's important about your client, things that you would like to remember, maybe login information such as QuickBook login and password. Well, I can select on add a note. As you can see, the contact, because we're already on the client, the contact is pre-populated. By default, the staff, I am the admin. I can set this to a different staff member within my office, or by default, I am the one who is putting in the actual note. Please do not allow admin to mix you up believing that this is the system admin. Well, I am the system admin, but I just have my name as admin. Otherwise, it can just be set to Shantae. That's fine as well. What is the subject? Notes. Now let's say QuickBook login. And we'll just go ahead and capture that from the subject line, place that as far as within the text, and I'll just put test XXX 123. That's just as an example. My date, my time, and if in fact this was set to a specific type of a specific type, such as is this a client at the office, client in the office, or so forth, yeah, I can take advantage of that. At this point in time, I can now select save the note. Real quick, for ABC Company, I now have a permanent note for that QuickBook information. And as you can see, QuickBooks login, test XXX 123. Now, I would like to call your attention to this Notes tab once again. There are two views. We offer the summary view, where you can see quickly the notes from the Notes tab and select on the note that you would like to view. However, a lot of offices, including myself, like to select and view the Details view. The reason why selecting the Detail view is a favorite amongst many individuals across the board in different offices is this little option right here, View All. When selecting View All, I'm now able to view all the notes for ABC Company, regardless of wherever it was captured, whether it was captured in the notes, the to-dos, the calls. I'm now viewing all permanent notes for ABC Company versus the summary view only viewing these three notes that have been captured within this tab. As you can see, we offer a couple different options depending on what works best for you at that particular time. So yes, for notes, we can create a new note. We can edit an existing note, save, get rid of a note, and so forth. To-dos. The to-dos tab allows you to create to-dos either for yourself or for another staff member. The easiest way to manage a to-do, when would I want to assign out a to-do or a task? Well, let me give you an understanding because we're already doing this. Other staff members, as far as within our office, we very well may task them with making copies or calling a specific client back or doing something. In that case, how would we relay this information to that staff member? Maybe yelling down the hallway, maybe sending them an email or a sticky note. Well, these three options are definitely available to you. However, there's no tracking there. The to dos, as far as within Office Tools, allows you to set a task, and it's simply this: it's a single task for a single individual. That's it, not a project. This task will be first started by Shantae. Once completed, then it'll be moved on to Jennifer. No, that would be a project. But the to do would be as far as a single task for a single individual. And I'm actually going to be covering the to dos and the calls together because they're very much similar, and I'll make sure to call your attention to what makes it different. Just so for the sake of time, the to dos as we move forward, as well as this calls tab, it's pretty much the same as far as explaining or demoing this. So the to dos, we can now use our toolbar here within the tab. Once again, we can add a to do or a task, edit, save, or delete. I'm going to select on add a to do. Now, there's four important things that you need to make sure that is captured within this to do as well as the calls. One, we want to make sure we have the four staff. Remember, by default, it's going to be set to the individual who is logged in. In this case, admin, that would be myself. If in fact this task is for myself, I am fine. I can open this drop down. Let's just say this particular task is for Andrew. Well, I can open that drop down and make sure I set this to Andrew. Now, when Andrew logs in, he will be able to manage and view this from his activity list. Okay. For today's example, I'll just leave it set to the admin. So we want to make sure the staff, is always populated. The second, we want to make sure the name is populated. And if in fact we are dealing with the appropriate client selected, well, it will automatically populate for us. And then we want to make sure the contact. Now, contact, who are we going to be doing this task for? Mike Smith. Phone number, is it his mobile or his work? Now, here is the third of the four we want to make sure to take advantage of: the due date. Set the appropriate due date. The due date will be for today. And number four, take advantage of your reminders here. These reminders will allow you to add to the activity list to manage, or even set this as a reoccurrence. And that would be the difference from the to do as well as the calls. To dos can reoccur where a phone call is going to happen and then it's going to complete. So the to do, let's just recap the four important things here. We want to make sure the staff is taken care of. We want to make sure the name contact is correct for the appropriate client. We want to make sure we have the appropriate due date, and then take advantage as far as our reminders. Heads up, if there are any documents that you would want to make sure is attached to this task, you can drag and drop that document right here as well. So for this particular to do, we're going to say scan in docs. I'm going to keep this simple. I'll make that my subject line as well. And once again, the due date will be for today. And we'll set this for, let's say, 10:25 a.m. We're going to add this to our activity list. By default, that is selected. It's not going to reoccur. And once again, I can drag and drop any documents in if necessary. I can now select Save. And now you can see in my activity list down at the bottom, it's actually set. So I have an item to complete for today, and here it is. I can tell what it is by the icon, or I can even take a look at the description. Who is it for? For what client? ABC Company. And here's the contact, Mike Smith. Down below, once again, in your staff activity list, this is how you're going to manage as far as the work that needs to be completed or done for your clients from your contact list. To-dos. In this particular task, easiest way to manage this, once again, this is a single step for a single staff member. Now we're going to come back to this scan in the docs because we're going to complete this. But I did want to allow you to see how we can quickly create a task, assign it to the appropriate staff member, and then allow us to view this on our staff activity list. Now let's come to our calls. As I explained, your to-dos, your task, and your calls are very similar. However, the way you're managing this, to-dos are tasks, calls are actually calls. Well, what type of calls should you capture? Well, you should capture as far as future, present, as well as past conversations about your client. For this particular example, I'm going to use add a new call, and this is going to actually be a callback. Let's say this particular client called in as I was away from the office. And I have a different staff member who has taken the incoming call. Instead of leaving me a sticky note or an email, well, they're going to set this within the calls. I selected on from the toolbar within the tab itself, create a new call, and just like the to-do or the task, the 4 items that are very important you want to make sure to capture is who is this call for? It's for myself, as you can see, the admin. We want to make sure the name content is correct. We want to make sure the due date as well as the time is correct. So in this case, we're going to set this for 11. Now the contact is going to be Naomi. She stated to call her back at her mobile. And keep in mind, we can take advantage of our reminders. By default, it's going to roll down to the bottom of our staff activity list to show us our work. And of course, action, returned your call, came to see you, wants to see you. Give me a little more information about this. Of course, we can capture this within the notes. I'm going to say, please call. And then in my subject, call Naomi. And I can go further as far as within the notes if necessary. Here we go. So we have Naomi called, and she needed documents sent back to her. She also had a couple more questions. And this is, once again, for the admin. In this case, it would be Shantae. Today's date, due date. I can now select Save. And as you can see, now that work that needs to be completed for today, it comes down to my staff activity list. Have you ever had a long weekend or maybe a hectic lunch? Come back to the office and it takes you maybe 30, 40 or some time to figure out where you left off and where you should pick up from? Well, prioritizing as far as tasks, to-dos, projects, and so forth would allow you to quickly manage as far as not only your day, but manage your week. Who do I need to call back or complete based on today's date and time? It will be provided for you. So now we have our calls and our to-dos. Now before we go into the schedule tab, now that we have some information here on our staff activity list, let's take a look at this down at the bottom. Let's just say scan in documents for today at 10:17. Well, that time has come and passed. At this point in time, I can right select or right click as far as on the actual item within my staff activity list for a new set of menu options, or I can quickly just place a check in the box. This is going to provide me as far as my time card for tracking my time and billing purposes. And just for this work code, I'm just going to put review. Okay. And as you can see, it comes off of my staff activity list. That particular task has been taken care of. I can now move on to my next task, call Naomi. For Naomi, I can come here. As I select on the actual description, it allows me to view the call. Now, let's just say for this particular call, results or the what took place from that particular call, trying to contact Naomi. Here we go. Called her back and was able to answer all questions. I can select save. That's taken care of. And now I can place a check in the box to go ahead and add that in. Now, there's two ways I want to call your attention to by doing that. Yes, I could have edited the actual call, added in the note, or I could have simply checked off the box, removing it off of my staff activity list, and I could have added my notes from here. And we're just going to put the word code for today just to be review. Okay. Now I've completed those two particular items off of my staff activity list. Of course, the more work you have, the more items that will be listed on your activity list. The easiest way to manage your activity list, let's say that we had several different things to complete. And what was important to us was making sure that we took care of all of our calls for today. We can quickly uncheck as far as the title of the item, and this would remove it off of our staff activity list. It does not delete it, it just removes it from our view, allowing us to concentrate strictly on our calls. Of course, we can always place back the checks within the title of these items to bring them back to our activity list to manage. A lot of office managers also like this as an option. By default, you're viewing your activity list for the individual who is logged in. If I was the office manager per se, I can come up to staff, open this drop down, and I can view other staff members' activity lists. Maybe for this example, Andrew is out ill today or will be out for the next couple days. I can take a look to see what's on his list and prioritize or maybe even shuffle it around to a different staff member for review or for completion as well. This would also allow me to focus on the items from my activity list based on the priority if necessary. Now I would like to come to our Schedule tab. Now, the Schedule tab, once again, still applies to what client? ABC Company. That's the client we're still on. Since this is a contact driven software, once again, the tab that you select based on the client selected is where you're actually doing the work. So, ABC Company, contacts, notes, to dos, calls, and so forth. Now, coming to our schedule. A lot of popular use of this would be to pick and choose a date and time and quickly create as far as an appointment. By double clicking on a certain date and time, we'll add a new appointment will come up. Well, this is equivalent to if I was just to select within the toolbar, add an appointment. I can quickly add an appointment here. You can place any important details as far as about that appointment to remind yourself. You can also schedule this, or excuse me, the schedule is fully integrated with the complete Office Tools program as well. If necessary, we can also create email reminders about this appointment, and that way we're not missing this. There are multiple views, just so that you know. By default, when you come in, you are viewing at the actual, excuse me, when you first come in, you're viewing at the day level. However, the three different views, day, week, as well as month. A lot of office managers also like this as well. As I demonstrated earlier, you're able to undock as far as the staff activity list. Well, if I come over to the right, I can also undock my calendar view. Now that this is undocked, I can come to as far as selected staff to view other staff members' calendars, or I can use this option here to the right, select, and I can say for Andrew, add, and for Rebecca, add, and then close. I can add in Andrew as well as Rebecca's calendar, combine it with my calendar view, and let's say we want to do this for the day. We're going to have the day view, and excuse me, let me make sure I have those three over. Yes, add, close, they're there. Now I can come to combine to actually view multiple staff members' calendar. I have all staff right here. If there were multiple appointments, I would be able to view everyone, shuffle them around if need be. Once again, a lot of different offices like to take advantage of the calendar or the schedule view because it's fully integrated as far as with Office Tools. Another great thing about this ABC company, our schedule, when creating a new schedule, you'll notice that the majority of the information from that client will pre-populate that appointment as well. Now, just to recap, part one, part two, part three, you're always going to begin with your contact list, selecting the appropriate contact you're looking to do work or do the work for. After you've narrowed that down and selected the appropriate contact list, contact driven software, you're going to do the work within the main workspace within your tabs. Taking advantage of the toolbar in the specific tabs such as add, edit, delete, and so forth. Down below in your staff activity list, this is the way you'll manage your day and your week's work of what's to come, what needs to be completed at what priority level. Now, we're not expecting you to be an expert at this particular time, just have a better understanding of the layout of Office Tools as well as the navigation. At this point in time, I will now conclude as far as Office Tools training. If you do have questions, please feel free to submit them within the chat and we'll make sure to get a response back to you. I thank everyone for your time. You may now disconnect.